What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We got a spicy video today. This is a video that was so spicy, in fact, that it was removed by YouTube within like a day. I'm surprised it wasn't removed sooner, but this guy really gets into extreme detail about people of a certain religion, and just him talking and explaining the research he did was so controversial that the video got removed from the platform. Now, I'm not sure what's going to happen with this video, so watch it while you can. It was re-uploaded about 4 hours ago, and I don't know if I should even be doing this. I'm not sure what can happen, as far as me making a reaction to this video. So I'm really dancing with the devil here, playing with fire. But the information that he talks about, and he's not for or against anyone here. He's doing as much research as he can to really look into Kanye West and what he said and the people he was talking about, and see if there was any truth to what he was saying. So just a trigger warning to anyone watching this video. If you do not want to be offended, if you do not want people to say things that are not politically correct, I highly advise you not to watch this video. This is absolutely not for people who are against people talking about certain things and may say things that are not nice, I suppose. I guess that's the best way to put it. Tech Lead has always been someone who's expressed his opinion. Wow, I'm really trying to decide if I'm going to post this or not. Oh man, I really hope I don't get in trouble for doing this. Oh man. This is not going to be a fresh reaction. I did watch this once before. All the information he was talking about hasn't been like burned into my memory, but I do remember him saying things that were like, wow, I can't believe he's going to post this to YouTube. Not because it's necessarily evil or hateful, but because of the platform it's on, he may get in trouble for posting it. So I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure what's going to happen, guys. This is really me playing with fire here. So we're going to just go ahead and play the video, and we're going to see what happens.
Right, about some of the things that he's saying. Once we move past all of the hurt and the historic anger that pulls up memories of the Holocaust, we want to take a look at the things he's actually saying, and does he even have a point here, moving past the emotional anger. And I think this is something that Kanye West actually suggested we do as well. We kind of forget about history and take a look just at the engineering, the logical, rational side of all of this. Because for all of the emotional outrage that he causes when he says the words like the Jewish media, I mean, the media is kind of controlled by a lot of Jewish people out here. We can actually see here who controls your mind. This was a chart back in 2013. All of these red is Jewish people, right? So they own like Universal Studios, ABC News, CBS, CNN, Columbia Pictures, DreamWorks, Facebook, Google, also run by Jewish people, Yahoo, Marvel, Pixar, The New York Post, LucasArts, MSNBC, DreamWorks, Comcast, The New York Times, Comedy Central, Wall Street Journal. I mean,
wow. Again, I saw this before, guys, but I really didn't look at it. It was just sort of playing when I was watching the video, but this is incredible. That's a lot of red. That is a lot of red. That is a lot of red. I'm not sure if this is factual or not. Again, this was made by someone else. I'm pretty sure if this was officially released, it would have been, removed almost immediately. But this was made by someone doing their own research. Like I know for a fact that none of the major news networks released this. This was definitely done by a personal researcher. I have to hear who released it again. Let me pull this back real quick. I know I'm stopping it really early, guys, but that's wow. Hold on.
Controlled by a lot of Jewish.
Here's another chart here. Oh man. Wow.
People out here, we can actually see here who controls your mind. This was a chart back in 2013. All of these red is Jewish people, right? So they own like Universal Studios, ABC News, CBS, CNN, Columbia Pictures, DreamWorks, Facebook, Google, also run by Jewish people, Yahoo, Marvel, Pixar, The New York Post, LucasArts, MSNBC, DreamWorks, Comcast, The New York Times, Comedy Central, Wall Street Journal. I mean, admittedly, a lot of these large media organizations and tech companies that are able to shape global narratives are run by Jewish people. So does Kanye West have a point here? And to me, it's kind of like saying there's a lot of white male power in executive management positions.
I know I keep interrupting him, but I'm still surprised. Don't worry, guys. We're going to get through the whole video. I know I keep interrupting, but I'm still surprised that Comedy Central is a part of this chart because, as we all know, South Park, one of the longest running and funniest cartoons of all time, has said a lot of things about people of the Jewish faith. They made a joke out of this, become a meme at this point, specifically Eric Cartman. I'm surprised that a Jewish-owned company would broadcast that. I don't know how. I don't know how that's possible. And you know, they've been making these jokes about people of the Jewish faith for decades now. It's been a long time. Joke after joke after joke, they come up with something, a new way to be cruel to people of the Jewish faith for many years, and yet South Park is still on the air. So I don't know how that's how that's allowed to happen and how they haven't been canceled yet. But wow, that's news to me.
Yahoo, Marvel, Pixar, The New York Post, LucasArts, MSNBC, DreamWorks, Comcast, The New York Times, Comedy Central, Wall Street Journal. I mean, admittedly, a lot of these large media organizations and tech companies that are able to shape global narratives are run by Jewish people. So does Kanye West have a point here? And to me, it's kind of like saying there's a lot of white male power in executive management positions in corporate companies, and nobody gets mad about that. But when Kanye West says there's a lot of people of Jewish religion in these media companies and tech companies, then everybody gets upset all of a sudden. And I think you have to remember that someone like Kanye West, who got to the level of success that he's at on the global scale, does not live in the same kind of politically correct, naive, bubble wrapped world that we live in, but he's in this cold, hard, realist world, and he must see things and call things out for as they are. And so it's not entirely surprising to me that someone of his street smarts and instincts has also noticed that a large number of these media and tech organizations do seem to be run by people of the same religious faith. And what does that really mean? Maybe he's just kind of calling that out and saying, what is this? Is there potentially chance for, say, collusion in this space? So I wanted to give you my perspective on this as just a normal, uneducated tech bro on this with a passing interest in Jewish religion. And it is typically that I feel I can't trust any religious person, basically, because they have an ulterior motive. So people will act in totally bizarre, unpredictable ways to me because they have some random doctrine that they've been brainwashed into thinking, right? Like some people are going to just randomly go sacrifice themselves for some cause. And that's totally bizarre to me because it's not a logical thing, but they're acting for their faith or religion. And so, funny enough, if it were up to me, I would actually say that no person in a position of power should be religious. They should renounce their faith because now they are beholden to their people, and they should be acting in a rational way, not with some ulterior backhand motive, which is to please their God. And, there could be anything written in these holy scriptures that they've been indoctrinated into believing, right? Like there's a lot of fine text in there. What if there was a piece of text that said, there's only one land that is the Holy Land, and this country that you're in isn't it? can you trust a leader who's going to say, well, they don't believe that your land that you're living in, that they're controlling and governing, is truly the holy land? So then they really have no vested interest in this land, and their goal maybe is to extract value from this land and to empower their holy land. I mean, for someone such as myself, and generally I'm not religious, I'm going to behave in a rational, self preserving type of way. Whereas when you see religious people, you just don't know what they're going to do because there's all these random holy scriptures that they're following. And who knows, oftentimes it can even be at a conflict of interest with what is good for the public good. And so when I see large groups of religious people with power concentrated in a certain area, it does kind of concern me as well. And I wonder, do we need some more religious diversity in here as well? I know that in the modern day, people like to say, hey, why don't we just be welcoming of everything? We have freedom of gender, freedom of religion, freedom of race, just whatever, anything goes, do whatever you want. But I think it's funny that we'll also whitelist certain religions. So, for example, if all these red people in power were of Al Qaeda religion, that may be kind of concerning to people. And they would say, hey, what's going on here? Is there chance for collusion? And the other concerning thing for me here is that the Jewish religion in particular is quite exclusion or inclusion based, right? It's like a Jewish person typically should marry another Jewish person, and if you're not Jewish, then you don't belong in this group and you don't have that privilege. So I have to say, for me at least, it got me wondering, do religious people view me as one of them, as part of their group, or is this more of a power grab in order to strengthen one group of people over another? And I would say it's incredibly important that it was someone like Kanye West who brought up this discussion because, as a black person, his community was, of course, prosecuted for slavery. And then you've got the Jewish people prosecuted in the Holocaust. And, both of these groups of people are kind of victims. And they kind of use that to acquire victimhood status in order to make themselves unassailable.
Okay.
And Kanye West.
All right. So, a lot of things were said so far. He's speaking like extremely fast and coming through all these points or going through all these points very quickly. So it's I'm trying to find the best place to pause and discuss a lot of what he said because he's talking so quickly and saying so much information so quickly. So he touched on a few things here. Some of the biggest points was the fact that the Jewish faith or people within the Jewish faith practice some form of exclusion if you're not 100% Jewish. I've heard that before, but again, I haven't seen any like concrete proof personally. So but I've definitely heard that before. He made a point about if all of those highlighted companies in red were of a religion or a faith that was extremely terroristic, were of people who supported and practiced terrorism, would there be more concern than if it was people of the Jewish faith? And that's another huge point. I mean, think about it. What if all these companies in America were owned by the Taliban, by these other extremely violent terrorist organizations that have weaponized religion? What would you do? Would people be as calm as they are now? And again, this is not him saying that people of the Jewish faith are as violent or as cruel as people of the more radical belief system or more radical militant religious organizations. What he's saying is, would people be more afraid, if all these organizations were owned by them? So he's pretty much making a comparison or making it clear that people who believe in religion or have a certain faith, I guess, don't go about things logically. They go about things based on their beliefs, and their beliefs can be swayed based on their interpretations of the source of their religion. And that makes them chaotic, unpredictable, or swayed by some form of amorphous faith, or trust in an unseen force that can lead them to making decisions that are not for the best interest of the people that are employed by them or who work for them. I'm really dancing around a lot of different things here. I'm trying my best to be neutral, and I'm really trying to be not as spicy as a tech lead here. But yeah, I can see the point he's trying to make, and it's definitely something to really think about. And of course, he's pointing out that both people of color and people of the Jewish faith have used victimhood to increase their position in the country, and that's 100% correct. As a black man, I know that this is something that's used a lot by people of color, by people of certain religions. It's very common, and they take advantage of it every chance they can. That doesn't mean all of them do, but it's definitely something used by people of that religious faith or of minorities and people of color. This is absolutely true. So I had to slow it down for a bit because, again, he talks very quickly. Hopefully, I was able to catch everything he said because, again, it was so much in this brief pause. But we're gonna get right back into it.
In the Holocaust. And, both of these groups of people are kind of victims, and they kind of use that to acquire victimhood status in order to make themselves unassailable. And Kanye West moved past that, actually, and he actually began denouncing the Black Lives Matter movement. And so, if anyone's a victim here, if any group suffered, well, it was Kanye West, because the black people probably suffered as much, if not more, than the Jewish people, right? And he's still asking people to move past that history and to let it go and to just focus on building the future instead of using the past as a way to, gain sympathy. And so we can see here in Wikipedia, it states that whenever Israel faces a public relations debacle, then the Jewish organizations will orchestrate this extravaganza called anti-Semitism. And the purpose is severalfold. First, it is to discredit any charges by claiming that the person is an anti-Semite. It's to turn the Jews into victims, as if the Jews are being threatened by a new Holocaust. It's a role reversal where the Jews are now the victims. So it serves as a function of discrediting the people leveling the charge. And Kanye West probably was able to see through this and understand that, with the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of people were just looting stores and they discredited anybody by using their history. And so maybe in his perspective, Jewish people are also just using their history, the Holocaust, in order to automatically make themselves the victim in any scenario. The linguist Noam Chomsky also argued here that there have long been efforts to identify anti-Semitism in an effort to exploit anti-racist sentiment for political ends. Now, the funny thing, though, is that it is actually the Jewish people, the radical Jews known as the Zionists, who are actually considered racist. And actually, in 1975, the United Nations designated Zionism as a form of racism and racial discrimination and banned them. However, it was as recent as 1991 when Israel joined the United Nations that they forced the UN to repeal this ban and say, hey, Zionism should be okay. But there's been a lot of criticism of Zionism throughout history up to present day, where they note that Zionism is replete with manifestations of deep hostility and contempt towards the indigenous populations, and Zionism typically views Palestine as the Holy Land. So when they go out to these other countries, they typically view those as the indigenous groups of people. And so digging into history a little bit here, some have said that Zionism is more of a colonialist movement where they seek to conquer other lands and then to strengthen their holy land, Palestine. And so there's also this terrifying ideal in Zionism known as assimilation of Jews into the modern world, where the ideal is to abandon traditional views and opinions in an attempt at modernization and assimilation into the modern world, and therefore to integrate with other societies. So it's a cultural synthesis without necessarily losing their identity as a people by perhaps enforcing that they only marry within their own religious group of people. Now, during my travels, one time I was able to actually visit the Holocaust Museum and really sympathize with what was happening there with the Jewish people. This was over in Poland, but I also did see this pamphlet there, this book known as the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and this book is dangerous material. A lot of people don't like you taking a look at this book because this was the propaganda material that caused a lot of the anti-Semitism, that caused much of the Holocaust, that fueled a lot of the hatred against Jewish people in Nazi Germany that was used by Adolf Hitler. But I love conspiracy theories. So to give a little context, this text described how Jews were trying to assimilate as potential infiltrators to take over society in this international conspiracy network. and how there was going to be this elaborate plan where Jews would be kings of the world in 100 years. Now, the disconcerting thing about this is there's this World Zionist organization, which is this mysterious group of people, and they've got like hundreds of thousands of people spread across various countries, and they're this strange radical religious organization, and they were banned in the Soviet Union, but I believe they do continue to exist today. I don't know what they do. Maybe they should just open up some transparency and live stream their meetings online.
Okay, so you touched on a point here. Let me see if I can find it. Wait, where is it? I think it's right here. Hold on.
Over society in this international conspiracy network, and how there was going to be this elaborate plan where Jews would be kings of the world in 100.
Okay, so this objective, regardless of its legitimacy, has been the cause of so much hatred towards the Jews, people of the Jewish faith, that it's just him bringing this up is probably one of the reasons why the video got removed from YouTube. People have been using this objective by people of Jewish faith to kill them, to abuse them, be violent towards them for I don't know how long. I don't know how long this is existed or has existed, or who came up with the idea. But this right here is very important, and it's led to a lot of evil. Just this fear that one day this might happen has led to a lot of evil actions. So yeah, he has a lot of courage pointing this out, because a lot of people just, I think if you said this even on TV, you probably get into trouble for saying it, because it's like lighting a match that'll lead to to a um, a forest fire of hatred. Like, people really do not like people talking about this at all.
Years. Now, the disconcerting thing about this is there's this World Zionist organization, which is this mysterious group of people, and they've got like hundreds of thousands of people spread across various countries, and they're this strange radical religious organization, and they were banned in the Soviet Union, but I believe they do continue to exist today. I don't know what they do. Maybe they should just open up some transparency and live stream their meetings online so we know what they're up to. But luckily for us, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion book was classified as a fake. Right? It was just fake propaganda. It was plagiarized from various sources, and it was just made up, totally fake stuff. So the idea that a group of religious people are trying to take over society and become the kings of the world is totally false.
Okay.
But to better understand anti-Semitism in modern days, we can see here, even Henry Ford here, he had the distrust of Jewish people. He said that the only statement he cares to make is that even though the protocols may be fake, they totally fit what is going on. They have fitted the world situation up to this time. Now, this was such a dangerous statement, he later had to issue a retraction and an apology disclaiming personal responsibility, so he was basically canceled.
So even back then, you would get in trouble about talking about people of the Jewish faith. So, but what Henry Ford said was a bit, that was definitely a bold statement. That was a little bit, what I'm saying? Like, he again, but he got in trouble for it. He got in trouble for it. I mean, it was a different time back then. I'm pretty sure he had a similar mindset towards other people, but it was what he said about people of the Jewish faith that got him into extreme trouble. So you can see here that this has been going on for quite some time. This has definitely been going on for quite some time. Probably before there was a way to really come up with a way to store all of this information. And I think, it's saying right here, he admired Nazi Germany. That I believe is also a fact because this is Wikipedia, so people can change things. So a lot of people don't trust Wikipedia. I think this is Wikipedia. The format looks like Wikipedia. I haven't been on Wikipedia in a while, but the format looks like Wikipedia. Again, the facts on Wikipedia can be a little, it's up for debate if this is 100% factual because people can, if they want to, add whatever they want to the site. I'm not sure if they changed this. Again, it's been a while. Someone correct me in the comment section. You can still manually um, corrupt the information on Wikipedia. But yeah, this is Wikipedia. Sometimes facts can be a little bit foggy, but this is what he's using. So, this is a smart guy. Perhaps this information is concrete. But yeah, this is people getting canceled for many years now. I think maybe he was the first person to get canceled. Now, again, said things that he should not have said. Um, this was, he should have probably found a better way of expressing his opinion. Because again, this is definitely something a bit spicy. This is definitely something a bit spicy, and I understand how he must have felt. But again, Mr. Ford has always been someone, I guess, because of his power to just say whatever he wants. And for someone of this position, this high up on the food chain, to perhaps become a bit afraid and apologize, just shows you how much power certain organizations had even back then. So this has been happening for over 100 years. This is, all the way back to the 1920s. This is like a demonstration of how much power certain organizations had to make Henry Ford afraid and apologize. I think again, even Kanye West had apologized. So this has been happening for a long time, guys. This is has happened for quite some time. You can trace it back all the way to the 1920s. I'm learning so much. This is a lot. This is a lot, man.
On an interesting note, he was also an admirer of Nazi Germany. So if you drive Ford cars, that's a fun fact for you. But anyways, I think Henry Ford had the sentiment because the protocols stated that we shall surround our government with a whole world of economists, bankers, and millionaires because in substance everything will be settled on the basis of figures. So I mean, it's probably just a coincidence, quite frankly, that a lot of the economists, bankers, and millionaires and the media tech organizations are controlled by Jewish people, just so happenly, but maybe it's creating some paranoia here as well, creating some of the anti-Semitism in the world. Personally, I thought it was interesting to note here that also Mahatma Gandhi was also canceled on his stance on Zionism, where initially he was stating that he expressed sympathy for the Jewish aspirations to reclaim their land of Palestine, noting that, well, it's wrong and inhuman to impose the Jews on the Arabs. Surely it would be a crime against humanity to reduce the proud Arabs so that Palestine can be restored to the Jews partly or wholly as their national home. But later, similar to Henry Ford, he had to retract his statements, nuancing his views to say, he has refrained practically from saying anything in public regarding the Jew-Arab controversy. So personally, I just find it surprising that even half a century ago, people were being canceled. We had the
See, even he's surprised by that. So Gandhi, who's a now controversial figure for what he said about certain types of people, maybe I'll do a video on that. But even he was how's the best way to say this? Even he apologized due to some type of pressure to not offend certain powerful organizations, and bit his tongue when talking about certain types of people. Now, it's again, this is incredible because as a person of color, I don't think that we have the power right now, or at least back then, maybe now, but back then, to do something like this, to make someone, especially not back then, apologize after saying something about us, you know? Like if someone said the N word, or if someone said, you know, anything derogatory towards people of color, black people, etc., illegal immigrants, um, just that this just wouldn't happen. People will be celebrated for having the courage to talk about lazy people of color, people jumping the border, whatever's going on. They'd be seen as heroes for not being afraid to speak their minds. But if you say something about people of a certain faith, then it's almost required for you to almost immediately retract your statement and apologize. Because again, everyone from Gandhi to Henry Ford, who again is a very proud, rich American. I'm not sure how much money he had. I'm not sure if he's a millionaire, billionaire in today's money. To make someone like that, like Ford, get scared or become cautious and apologize, it's still, I'm still trying to, you know, convince myself that this actually happened. Like, wow, because someone like that back then was probably untouchable. They can do whatever they want, but even they apologize to people of a certain religion. And then Gandhi, the same exact thing. I don't think he retracted his statement when he's talking about, other things, other controversial things, but he apologized or retracted his statement or held his tongue when talking about people of a certain religion.
But later, similar to Henry Ford, he had to retract his statements, nuancing his views to say he has refrained practically from saying anything in public regarding the Jew-Arab controversy. So personally, I just find it surprising that even half a century ago, people were being cancelled. We had the likes of Henry Ford and Gandhi being silenced, and that silencing has continued to today with Kanye West as well being deplatformed from various social media companies. And I thought it was interesting to see what Hitler had to say about the protocols in Mein Kampf. And this is just for historical context, not any support, but he said that the protocols are based on a forgery. And so he knew that. Kind of a similar position to Henry Ford, but he noted that the important thing is with positively terrifying certainty, they reveal the nature and activity of the Jewish people and expose their inner context as well as their ultimate final aims, that being to take over society, which we have proven to be false today. And so I found the subject to just be incredibly nuanced with deep historical context in it. And I think that's one reason that Kanye said, let's just forget the history. Let's just move on past this. Because there's so much nuance to this. It's not simply like, hey, why don't we just have any gender, any race, any color, any religion, skin color, whatever, doesn't matter. This one, there's so much context in that. And actually, I was personally surprised one time, one of my close friends who will not be named came to me and said that Jewish people are parasites. And I was totally surprised to hear this. I was like, what are you talking about? This is crazy. What do you mean they're parasites? And I just said, yeah, you're crazy about this. But it turns out that there's an entire Wikipedia articles about the Jewish parasite. There's actually historical terms for this. So this is another complete rabbit hole throughout history. There have been a lot of people who have discussed this. I don't know if it bears going through, but, it kind of makes me wonder, why do people call themselves Jew? It kind of creates this group of people. And to me, it's kind of like, if I were to call myself a crusader, as in the Crusades, where 2 million people died in this war, and if you saw me and I came and said, I'm a crusader, what does that mean? What do I believe? Am I radical? You don't know what that means. Why can't I just say I'm a human being, I'm a person, and then we all know I'm going to be rational and acting in self-interest. But similarly, if I came and said, hey, remember the Axis versus the Allies in World War II? Well, I'm an ally. Why do you have to bring that up? Why do you have to bring up this personal designation? Is some type of holy war still going on in your head? Is there some ulterior motive? Or can we all just say that we're modern people now? And I found this article even as recent as 2018, Israel, which is the land that the Holocaust survivors were kind of put into, that's basically Palestine. They proclaimed themselves as a Jewish nation state. And then the local Arabs there were very mad about this, because as I understand it, they were originally there. And so it just boggles me as an unreligious person that in other people's minds, there's actually this holy war going on where they're striving to claim power as this group of people in order to claim this religious land, Palestine. And that even today, in this modern digital era, you still see some people with religious fanaticism waging this holy war to claim the Holy Land. So you've even got billionaires out here like George Soros, who happens to be a Jewish person, and maybe he's just a great guy, but It also raises some questions. What if he was a religious fanatic and he was using his wealth and status in order to wage holy war, right? Like, he's probably not. We can hope he's not, but there may be some people out there who are. And maybe we need to ask some of these questions. What if there were some conspiracy theory going on? There's probably not, but it also bears remembering that history is written by the victor, and in our version of history, the Jewish people won, actually, right? Hitler and Nazi Germany were defeated, and the Protocols of the Zion of the Elders was classified as false propaganda.
So, this is probably another detail of the video that got it removed. He brought up Jewish parasites, people of the Jewish faith who were parasitic towards a group, a person, another organization that I guess acquires some form of fortune or wealth by doing this. He brought up how Hitler knew that the protocols of Zion, if I'm remembering it correctly, were false, but he used it as a reference or a template for what could possibly be a plan that Jewish people could be following in order to acquire power and take over the world. So it's again surprising to me that Hitler was aware enough to realize that this information is probably some BS, but I'm going to use it to make people afraid and make people hate people of Jewish faith. So it shows that Hitler is a little bit more competent than people, I guess, believe. He's not some angry little man. He is smart enough to be aware of actual information, actual realistic information, and what's most likely some form of hateful fan fiction. Hateful fan fiction. That's a good way to describe it. So that's something that definitely jumped out to me about what he's talking about here and the information he's presenting. Another thing that he brought up was the possibility that maybe one of these conspiracies is true, that it could be some sort of plan in place for people of a certain religion to acquire power. He just threw that out there. Maybe he's just trying to mess with people's head, or maybe he actually believes this, or I think he actually does believe this, that it's a possibility that is possible. And he started pointing out certain people of the Jewish faith who were talking about certain things. I have to look into these people myself before I start naming names here, but it's clearly in the video. And again, he's not choosing anything directly or choosing a side here. He's just, again, coming in from a position of no knowledge and trying to acquire as much knowledge as he can while making this video.
However, I've also found conspiracy theories online that state that the protocols were actually true. Now, it doesn't really matter to me whether they're true or false, but it matters to me that our system is robust enough to guard against any type of collusion possible, and we should be open to discuss that and call these out without having to necessarily go back to use history to claim victimhood status to make ourselves unassailable. And personally, I find it interesting to consider the ramifications and the legacy of essentially the Jewish people ultimately winning World War II with the Allies and Hitler's downfall, in which a lot of, say, Jewish values have permeated into the world. Like, for example, social justice is actually a construct of Jews. And so Hitler opposed the Jews for the values they brought into the world. Social justice, wokeism basically, that we see today, which has been permeating across tech and media, and this compassionate assistance to the weak stood in the way that Hitler perceived as the natural order in which the powerful exercise unrestrained power. In his view, such restraint on the exercise of power would inevitably lead to the weakening, even the defeat of the master race. So, quite interestingly, if Hitler had won World War II, maybe we would not have such a woke society based on social justice, but it would be about this master race, about power. And even for today's conflict between Ukraine and Russia, is it just a coincidence that Russia just so happens to be the anti-Jewish group of people, the same with Arabs? And so the West has aligned towards Jewish values. Has this been caused by, say, propaganda in the media? We don't really know. So it kind of raises the question, how would our values be different if we did not win World War II and side with the Jewish people, in which their values of, say, social justice permeate more into the West, right? And so we kind of see Kanye West talking about abortion a lot today. And he's noting how so many of the black community, like 50% or so, are dying from abortion. And so, in a way, it may be that this modern day value of saying that abortion is okay may be a legacy and remnant of Jewish values having permeated through the West as a result of us winning World War II. I mean, we don't really know. Like, this is just conspiracy theory. I don't know. Okay. But what's important is let's imagine that all of these conspiracy theories, which I've brought up, happen to be true. Like, let's say there's some Illuminati crazy conspiracy theory to just take over the world. And it just may be one day that, hey, maybe Al Qaeda is going to come in and infiltrate society and through capital all of our media and tech businesses and start brainwashing our societies. And there may merit a discussion to have some more religious diversity and thought in our media and tech organizations. Okay. You know what's funny? I even saw this article. I can't find it anymore. Someone can reference it maybe, but it noted how it was this group of fanatical Jewish people who had massive disdain for the rest of the other Jewish people who actually caused the Holocaust. Because, in a way, the result of the Holocaust was that the Jewish people did get Israel and reclaim their holy land, Palestine. And so the small group of people were basically responsible for creating these world wars. And who knows, maybe there's also the small group of people with self interest who are propagating the Ukraine Russia war. And to me, the important part is that we should be able to question some of these narratives without people suddenly getting hurt and emotional about some historical victimhood status. So I think Kanye West has no hate in his heart. This is obvious in his interviews, but when he calls people out by a group of classification that they self identify with, then they only feel hurt because they identify as that group of people. In a sense, you'll feel hurt the more strongly you self identify with a group of people. And, Kanye was saying that, hey, everybody's Jewish. He's Jewish too. Everybody's African. Everybody's the same. We're all the same. We're just people. And so, for example, if you came to me and said Asians are dumb, I would just say, okay, I'm just not going to so strongly identify with this term and just be a person, a people. If you came and told me engineers are nerdy, I would just say, I don't really classify myself really as an engineer, something that I kind of do on the side here and there, but I'm a person, I'm a world citizen. And so then I wouldn't take offense. So I hope you enjoyed the discussion. And to be clear, I'm not an anti-Semite. In fact, I once dated a Jewish person and I was dumped after the first date, but I did my part there. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Let me know your thoughts on Kanye West. See you in the comments below. And if you liked the video, give a like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. So that's it, guys. That's it. That was what he said. I'm not sure the video was so bad, so hateful, so disgusting that it had to be removed from the platform. I think that he obviously brought up a lot of information that's a little spicy. That's definitely information that it wouldn't be in your best interest to talk about it when you're on certain platforms. If you're in an interview at certain news stations or you're talking in front of a certain group of people, it probably wouldn't be the best to bring up because again, it can make people upset that you even bring this up because it's that same information that's out there that led to a lot of hatred towards people of a certain religion, people who do certain things, people who practice certain behaviors as far as their faith and their belief system. You know, it gets people upset. It gets people upset because this is a step towards making people afraid, and when people get afraid, they become hateful. Hate is a result of fear. So they feel that when people talk about these things, it can make people afraid, and then it'll lead to a cycle of hatred and violence and abuse towards people of the Jewish faith, which again is logical and does make sense. But the censorship that's being shown here, as far as people not being allowed to say certain things, and how even suggesting that you're talking about certain things can get you canceled, it's not fair because if they were saying these things about other religions and other groups of people, this probably wouldn't happen. and there are several obvious examples of this happening. Um, and I guess it's not a balanced or fair system. It's definitely a system that is more aggressive towards people who talk about certain things.